Hi, I'm Kevin, and this is a Kevin's Shop video. This is a 1925 Fuller & Johnson engine that I just purchased and was shipped in. And I wanted to show you the condition that it is in before I get started on working on it. My plan is to restore it and get it running. Wanted to show you some of the condition issues. This tank is not the original tank, and I'll need to find one that matches the original. The original governor bracket has gone, and they've replaced it with this piece of angle iron, and I'll need to refabricate a governor bracket. The magneto is all seized up and rusted up. This engine uses oilers to lubricate the engine, and they're missing, as well as the oiler bracket. So I'll need to come up with those and fabricate a bracket for them. The cooling system is missing, and it mounts on this two-hole bracket. And then also the support bracket for the flywheel is missing, and I'll have to fabricate one of those. The engine is seized, and I see that they put a pipe plug in where the spark plug goes, so I'm concerned about the condition of the internal part of the engine. The carburetor on this engine is really interesting. It's all solid brass, so I'm encouraged by that. It should be pretty easy to get apart and restore. So that's kind of a survey of this engine and its condition as I received it from the shipper. I'm continuing to work on this Fuller & Johnson motor. I've taken it down, removed some of the things on it. But anyway, I thought that the engine was seized. As you can see, you can't turn the flywheel, and I didn't want to force it. But anyway, I removed this side plate, which has the magneto attached to it. When you remove this, it turns out now that I've got able to have some movement in the piston, and that's a huge relief because then the piston isn't seized to the cylinder wall. So our problem, I think, is down in this bearing here. It's seized for some reason, maybe lack of lubrication. Anyway, good news so far. This engine, the cylinder head is removable from the crankcase, so I was able to disconnect the connecting rod from the crankshaft and remove the cylinder and piston assembly as one unit. The piston was stuck in the top of the cylinder head, so I used a small stone and cleaned up the bore, and with a lot of lubrication I was able to coax the piston out of the cylinder head. I found some replacement rings, and each one had to be kind of notched with a tiny file to fit it into this pin. The exhaust valve ended up being seized, so I had to take a really long 1/8" bit and drill down through the center of the valve and then drive it out with a punch. This is the exhaust valve that I got out of the engine. You can see that it's extremely long, and I had trouble finding anything that was quite this long. So what I did is I ended up getting a valve out of a Honda Civic, and I came up with an extension for it so that I could come up with a valve that would work with this particular engine. This is the exhaust valve after I've remachined the head and added the extension to the bottom of it to make it work with this particular engine. The side plate on this engine had a broken piece where the governor bracket rides, and I had to come up with a piece and fabricate it to match, and then I welded it into place. I'm working on the drive shaft of this motor. It's bent a little bit, so I'm using my table saw and a dial indicator to straighten the drive shaft. Here's the flywheel that I'm working on, and you can see this section is broken out. I had tried to weld it, but the piece just wouldn't stay in place. It's just too much pressure on it. So what I'm going to do is I've got it chucked in the lathe here, and I'm going to just turn down this section until this is flush here, and then I'm going to make a bushing to fit in here and bolt. I think I'm going to end up bolting it in place to give it some more strength, and then hopefully that will fix this flywheel. Here's the bushing that I machined to fit into the flywheel. Everything outside of the flywheel was missing, so I fabricated a support bracket for the bearing housing, and then also made a starter pulley out of a 2-groove pulley and just turned down the inside. I fabricated the missing oiler bracket and located some oilers for this engine. Here I've fabricated a governor bracket and linkage. For the ignition system, I ended up choosing to use a buzz coil from that era, as well as fabricating a 12-volt battery holder. This ignition system ended up working really well, and I wanted to show you a small clip of how this buzz coil can produce a continuous spark. This engine's cooling system was missing. It was originally a radiator and fan assembly, and for the time being I decided just to build a tank for it that I could just put water in it and the water would circulate like some of the engines of this era. I had trouble locating all brass hose clamps, so I went ahead and just fabricated some. I ended up mounting the fuel tank to the side of the water tank. Here's the completed engine with the cart and handle that I fabricated. And here's a 360-degree view of the engine.